Hello again, everyone, and welcome to this one-on-one. I'm Martin Falls. Very pleased to have with me someone that a lot of you know here in the parish, Bryan Bunn. Now, a lot of you know him from his business aspect, and then he opens up a restaurant downtown, Louisiana. So Bryan's been involved in a lot of things. He's good for our downtown area, our parish. He's always involved in something. He's a behind-the-scenes kind of guy. But guess what? At one of my daily breakfasts, I tugged on him and said, "You're coming on one-on-one." He took a deep breath, reluctantly said, okay, and he's here today. We'll take a break. When we come back, Bryan Bunn's my guest on one-on-one. One-on-One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer. And welcome back to this episode of One-on-One. I'm Martin Falls. Once again, Bryan Bunn is my guest on One-on-One. And Bryan, good to see you.
Same here, Martin. Thank you.
You know, we clown around a lot at Louisiana. We talk a lot. And I've seen you more in the last few years than I ever saw you going through high school in different places. But occasionally we'd run into you. Mm-hmm. You were this kind of carefree guy from what I can remember. You had a serious side, but you had a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely.
In you back then. You hung around a lot of people that had a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
I just want to start off the program by saying thank God y'all all grew up.
And survived.
Right. No doubt. Y'all had a serious trail behind y'all. There's no doubt about it.
No question.
What's the earliest years you remember? Take me back.
Probably 3 to 4 years old. One of my earliest memories was my great-grandmother's funeral. That's when Chauvin Funeral Home was still located in front of the hospital there on Main Street. Wow. And that's probably my earliest memory.
Yeah. And what area were you born in? And take us through that.
I was born and raised on Kinney Street, 1 block from the school, from Broadmoor School. And from there we moved at the age of 7 to Lafayette Woods on the east side, which was a big adjustment from a fairly large neighborhood back then to a very small neighborhood. We were the second house in Lafayette Woods. Yeah. And from there I moved to Berg in Green Acres, which was the second house in that neighborhood as well. So
Green Acres is the place to be.
It was back at that time. We could ride our dirt bikes and act a fool, and nobody was around to see it.
Yeah, so you didn't have Mr. Haney around, did you?
Did not.
There's always a Mr. Haney in every neighborhood. You just got to figure out who it is.
Yes.
Broadmoor is a big neighborhood.
Yes.
Some of my dearest friends today are from Broadmoor, but back in the day, Mulberry, Barrios, Broadmoor, that was rivalries.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but then you go to Vanderbilt, and everybody's in the melting pot, and then you find out Broadmoor's not such a bad place after all.
Absolutely not.
We spent a lot of time at the Molazon's house. The Faques grew up there, and the Rows grew up there. Yep. But you were pretty close, you said, to Broadmoor. Yes. Wasn't that like a big playground for y'all?
There was. I mean, you had the baseball fields there. Obviously, you had the schoolyard. Nothing was fenced up back then, so you were kind of free to roam and do whatever you wanted to do.
And you could leave your doors unlocked.
Absolutely, we did.
Yeah. How many siblings in your family?
I'm the youngest of 4.
Yeah.
4 boys.
Let's get to your dad because, God, what a giant in the music industry. He could play that horn like no other. He played for a lot of, probably played for the Boogie Kings and other.
He did. He played with the Boogie Kings. He played with Dr. John. He played with Chicago, Sonny and Cher, Wayne Newton. He played with a whole myriad.
I never knew he played with Sonny and Cher and Wayne.
Yeah, they came into New Orleans. I think it was Pontchartrain Beach in the late '60s, early '60s, and he was invited to play backup with them. So he had a good time playing music, and that was his real passion. When I was born, he had to get a real job, so music had to get set off to the side, and he wound up working offshore for a while, and then opened his own business, and supported our family that way till he passed.
I bet he would know John Smith, who plays with us.
He and John were very close friends. I see John often because he comes to the restaurant and plays, was absent-minded.
Yeah.
He and Frank Ball, that's correct. He had a lot of time for Dad, and Dad had a lot of time for him. They loved one another dearly.
They're 2 great musicians. Those great ones sort of
John is an incredible saxophone player and a great guy. He and his wife both are amazing people.
Well, he played for the Doobie Brothers. He played for Toto.
He sure did.
He played Boogie Kings was really his band, huh? I think.
I think you're right.
So I think that's probably how him and your dad met. But all that music going on, and you were telling me the other day, you're just starting to learn how to play what, drums?
The drums, yeah. I'm 58 now. I'm not quite as old as you, Martin. But
Thank you for the compliment.
Well, no problem.
Yeah.
I got to thinking about it a while back and realized all the years that we had all that music in our home and were able to go visit with some of these folks that Dad played music with, that none of us really learned music. I have a brother that plays a little bit of guitar, but none of us really learned how to read, how to theory and things of that nature where music's concerned. And Dad didn't learn to read music until he was in his 70s. He played by ear. So I decided that it was something I wanted to do for him, I guess.
Yeah. Now, who was the biggest influence in y'all growing up? Was it your mom or was it your dad?
I would say it was equal. So Mom was a disciplinarian.
Yeah.
But Dad had a stern hand and kind of kicked the tiller every now and again to make sure we stayed on the straight and narrow.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
The reason I got to know your dad, he moved right around the corner from where I am.
That's correct.
And if you didn't know Jack, you would think, well, this is one stern guy.
He really
He
was.
had that demeanor.
Yeah, well, he had a resting face that was not very pleasant, but he had a huge heart.
Yeah.
Like I said, he loved us dearly. He loved his employees. I mean, he treated everyone like family.
Yeah.
He was kind of hard to approach at times because of that look.
Yeah.
But once you peel back the layer, he was an amazing human
He'd
being.
have been a hell of a poker player, right?
Absolutely.
One thing, and I think I told you this in the restaurant the other day, that I think you got from him, and I don't know your other brothers that well, work ethic.
All of us. That's one thing that he was pretty stern with, is when summers came around, we went to work. So we got our playtime, but we were sweeping the machine shop and cleaning shavings out of machines and doing whatever needed to be done to keep the shop in order and things running. So,
But y'all didn't really need to do that. He was doing pretty well in business, but he made sure that, I always say the story, I watched the Barkers grow up, and my good friend Mike Barker was washing cars in the back stations. And I used to always think, my God, the best thing our parents ever did for us was give us work ethic. Your daddy was no different.
no different. What he would typically do is he would ask us what we wanted. And he always had a little spiral-bound notebook in his pocket with a pen. And if it was a stereo from Radio Shack, he would bring you to Radio Shack and say which one you want. And we'd say, I want this one. And then he'd get his little pad out and he'd write and say, okay, well, you got to come work 120 hours at the shop this summer and we'll come back and get your stereo. And if you were an hour short, you better come up with that dollar amount or else it wasn't coming home with you.
That's amazing. You bring up Radio Shack too. Wasn't that the place to go?
It was the place to go. I actually worked there in '85, just out of high school. When
Was
I
that the one in the
college.
mall?
In the mall, and I worked at
All
Lee
right,
Park.
correct me
and
if I'm
Thibodeau.
wrong. I might be close, but because I bought there every single week. I was in Radio Shack with money I earned cutting grass or whatever. 876-9206. Am I close?
I think you're very close. It might have been 9207, but I think you're very close, yeah.
Yeah, because I used to call it every week. But what a fun place.
It was absolutely an amazing place.
Remember those little
until it
base
was time to
stations?
do inventory.
Yeah, I bet. Remember those little base stations, Archer?
Yeah.
Me and Mike Hadel had one from Radio Shack, and we were 50 feet across the street before they moved, and we had the antennas outside, and I go, Mike, can you hear me? And he'd go, yeah, can you hear me? Our whole conversation was, can you hear me? Yeah, man, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Amazing.
We were so amazing.
Technology, huh?
Yeah, the walkie-talkies and now the cell phones. If only the kids grew up in our day.
Yeah,
would be
I think
amazing.
it'd be a little different. Now we've got some great kids coming up. We've seen some youth at different events around the parish. It gives you hope that things aren't as bad as people may portray them to be where
Well,
the
and
youth is
I
concerned.
think it
We've
goes
got
back
some
to
wonderful
work
youth.
ethic.
It does. It does.
I mean, my nieces and nephews, I know their parents made them work.
Yeah.
And I always say the best thing a parent can do is make their child earn what they got. If you give them everything, they go down a different road, you know?
You reap what you sow.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Tell me about the business. When did you start taking it over? You're the youngest, you said, right?
I'm the youngest of four.
But you run the place, don't you?
Originally, yes, and then we wound up selling that business.
Okay.
The sale was completed in 2012.
Right,
I left in 2015 and started another.
right.
And then in 2017, I brought my brother Mark in and Timmy, and we still operate that today.
Y'all get along so well.
We do.
And what's the age difference?
My oldest brother is 65, and I'm 58.
That's very difficult to work with your family, but I see y'all eating together and talking and conversing.
Yeah.
How do y'all do that?
Coming up, Dad was real funny about us getting along, and he demanded we did. So any differences were settled immediately. There was no dragging us out for 2 or 3 weeks. Also, when we all went to work, he was running the business. And he put us all in different areas where we wouldn't step on each other's feet, so to speak. So Mark was very mechanically inclined. And then he wound up working his way into sales, which he was really good at that as well. Timmy was a machinist, exceptionally bright when it comes to numbers and making drawings, taught himself AutoCAD, and wound up basically running our engineering department. And I went into administration, sales first, then administration. And so we all had our own little box to take care of.
But he could sense
Yes.
where y'all needed to be.
Yes.
You've always been a born salesperson. Even when you were partying back in the day, you're always selling something, you know? And I say that in a good way. You can tell those that can promote the event, promote the product, as compared to the ones that want to be in that back warehouse, welding a piece together, doing different things.
No doubt. But when you believe in something and it's in you, it's easy to sell.
For the audience, what's the name of the company now?
We have a Triton Services, which is a marine and all-field equipment repair facility. We also have Triton Rentals, and then obviously Lumiere.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
What made you start Lumiere? How's a guy that gets in oil field that's got grease up to his elbows and is running companies start a restaurant?
About 22 or 23 years ago, I used to throw darts a lot, and Tucker Chauvin had Uptown Sports at the time, and that was where we were based out of. We won a dart team, myself, Tommy Hebert, who you know,
Yeah.
Sal Marron, who you know,
Yeah.
and Robert Boudreaux, who you know. And one of the young ladies that worked there was a girl by the name of, at the time, her name was Mitzi Landry. Years later, I went into a restaurant that she worked, and reacquainted ourselves with one another, and one thing led to another with her situation at that facility, and wound up buying a restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I see you there all the time. So you're sort of hands-on with all your businesses.
Not so much the restaurant. I'm there a lot
then you
because
must go
obviously
there to
I
eat.
like to eat. The girls run it, and they do a fantastic job. They do. Her and her sister are the owners as well, Christy Thibodeau,
Yeah.
and now Mitzi Reeve. And they do an incredible job.
I never knew there were sisters.
They are.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
And I see Hagen.
Hagen is
All the
actually
time.
Christy's son,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
He's a good guy.
He's a great, great young man.
Yeah. I like seeing Hagen. He's always, he's got some colorful imagination.
He does.
And he can zing it right back at you
Yes,
if you
he
zing
can.
it at him.
Yes, he can.
So I like that. My first recollection of you, although I knew you, and you're younger than me, so the upperclassmen would run into y'all somewhere, whether it's Grand Isle, whether it's at a function that everybody's at. But my first real thing that I can really sink my teeth in was that we were in Grand Isle. I was playing at the Grand Isle basketball tournament,
That is correct.
and we stayed up all night playing quarters.
We did, and you crushed the table. You hit 100 in a row, if I remember right,
Yeah.
101, whatever it was. And we all had too much to drink except Martin because
No, I did, because when I missed,
well, when you missed, you did.
everybody made me.
Yeah, up to that point, you were.
And sorry, Mom, that's just part of the past, hey, you know?
I apologize.
There was a sweet spot on that table.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, anything, when you get on a roll, like anything in life, I just would hit that sweet spot. And I remember missing a few times and chancing.
That's correct, and you hit it the second
And we were
round.
getting so cocky at the table, I just wing it, boom,
Yeah.
it's in. But that's just one of those. But the funniest part of that story is I had to get up and play at 8 o'clock in the morning.
And you weren't well.
But that was such a great tournament.
It was
And,
a great time.
yeah.
Not only that, but as you get older, and when I say older, coming out of high school, you connect with upperclassmen and you realize that you have a lot in common with even those people. And the older you get, the more that comes about. I guess growing old has actually been fun for me because I've been able to connect with folks that I never would have connected on that level with at a younger age. Mm-hmm. So we all have stories, including yourself.
If I went to some of your teachers at Vanderbilt, now you graduated 85, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you told me, you said, I don't mind you saying it, you should have been 83.
Should have been 83.
You got
That's
held
correct.
back one year.
Got held back in the fourth and failed in the eighth.
And then you cut up too much in 8th grade.
I did.
Now, I remember you being mischievous. Would that be a good word to describe you?
Yeah.
Or
I
on the
think
cusp of it?
That would probably be a good way to describe it, yes.
But wasn't that your whole gang?
Yeah, our whole class was a bunch of clowns. And probably no different than yours. I mean, we all had our head clown, our ringleader. I wasn't that guy.
Who was yours?
Oh, my God. I would have to say Glenn DePlantis.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the one that was normally pointing us in the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction.
Yeah, in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
High school for me, I was never very interested in school.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Thank goodness my children are. And they've all, I still have one in high school, but the other two have gone on and graduated college and they're doing the right things. So
I'm not going to say that kids shouldn't go to school and they shouldn't excel in school, because they should. But you were one of those exceptions that got into a little trouble, didn't study one year, and look at you now. You got successful businesses. At what age did you feel like, hey, I got to pull this together?
that was not a choice. So when I went into my father's office and said, look, I'm not cut out for college. This isn't what I want to do. He said, that's absolutely no problem. You need to go find a job, and here's the note for your truck and your insurance. And by the way, the truck note's due Friday. So there was no,
You got to love Jack.
there was no transition there. It was from school to work, and you had to do it. I mean, there was no question.
Was he a joking kind of father, or was it always sort of stern?
No. He had a wonderful sense of humor. Dad was always clowning about something, but when it was time to get serious, he got serious. But on most occasions, he was the happy-go-lucky, joking kind of guy.
Yeah. So that was the turning point of when you knew life was a little more serious than cutting up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits and Downer.